You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
So I've talked a number of times about, get that out of the shot there. Talked a number of times about this park that is next door to King County Superior Courthouse. Walking past it between 2 to 5 times a week, there's some kind of assault that goes on. This park is just, it's not a great place to have a park filled with the kind of folks that are there that are continuously doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. You know what I mean? It's a rough park. Now we've got a situation citing dire conditions. 33 King County Superior Court judges urged the immediate shutdown of Seattle's City Hall Park because it's next to the courthouse and they are literally on a daily basis being subjected to just all kinds of harassment, violence, people getting shot, people getting stabbed. I mean, it's just kind of that influence next to the courthouse. Crazy. That's what we're talking about here. We're going to talk about the 33 King County Superior Court judges going, yeah, we need to shut that down ASAP. That's what we're talking about. If you're new here, my name's Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies and I read the news like this. All right, let's do it. Let's jump on in. 33 King County Superior Court judges and 4 court commissioners on Friday. I'm reading to you on a Monday. Last Friday, signed a letter to Seattle Parks and Recreation Superintendent Jesús Aguirre requesting that he shut down City Hall Park and relocate the residents of a sprawling encampment immediately south of the downtown county courthouse. Anybody that's been watching the Seattle Real Estate Podcast, I've talked a number of times about, I did a walkabout throughout downtown Seattle. I think it was late February, whenever the NFL playoffs were, about that time. And this is one of those parks where I walked by and had to be really discreet with my GoPro, like in my hand, like do. I'm just walking by. I'm not really shooting any footage because it's a scary homeless encampment. I mean, it's not what you would envision next to a superior courthouse. Let's just put it that way, right? The influences there are the ones that end up in jail for a long, long time. We are writing out of deep concern for the safety of jurors, courthouse employees, the general public, and those who find themselves unhoused and sheltering in and around City Hall Park. The judges and commissioners wrote, as you know, conditions in and around the King County Courthouse vicinity, including City Hall Park, have been in a critical, unsafe, and unhealthy stage for years. As a matter of last resort to address these issues, we are requesting that you close City Hall Park. They're not requesting just a sweep and then clean it up and, let's do some work on it like we've done in Cal Anderson Park here, Echo Park down in California, Venice Beach. They're working on that, right? So with the whole homeless encampment thing during the CDC, with the CDC basically saying don't sweep anybody out, these areas have just been able to, they kind of, take on a life of their own. And now you've got this influence at the courthouse where you've got jurors and you've got judges and you've got court clerks and all those people just afraid to go to work. They're like, I've got to get through this labyrinth of just literally crazy people that are not mentally sound. You got a bunch of drug dealers there. So you've got drug addicts coming in to buy their stuff. You've got the drug dealers selling stuff. You've got people selling stolen goods. Anything and everything that you can think of that would be a negative in a homeless encampment, City Hall Park has, right? So they basically asked this compilation of judges and commissioners said, close it. Just close it. It's gotten super, super bad. The letter to Aguirre cites a Seattle Times news story published this week about legislation introduced by Metropolitan King County Council member Regan Dunn to condemn the 0.56 acre park. It's only it's a half an acre. It's like 25,000 square feet. They're talking about an article where the Seattle Times basically said that they're encouraging King County Council member Reagan Dunn. King County Council member Reagan Dunn has basically said, we want to condemn this park as a public safety hazard in the wake of a fatal stabbing last week that was preceded by several other incidences of violent crime. So we've got this park. We know the influence is there, but we're not willing to shut it down, because have we shut down a park in Seattle before because of this? I don't know that we've just flat out closed it. I know a lot of sweeps have happened and things along those lines, but just a condemnation of a park. So it would be the city giving up the park through condemnation to King County paying the city for, the reasonable value of the property as a park, because it's been allowed to become just such a negative influence. And who's allowed it to get there? Well, the city of Seattle, right? I mean, our fearless leaders here. They're also in a position where, due to the CDC, they can't do a ton, but there's been almost no enforcement of basic laws within the park. And with all the stuff going on, we just had a stabbing. I mean, you've got stabbing, shootings, all kinds of stuff down in this area, right? So our court has repeatedly met with park officials, city leaders, law enforcement, to request urgent assistance to address these conditions, the letter says. Little has changed other than conditions becoming even more dire. So you're watching this thing unfold, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And this is one of those parks where I keep saying, all right, unfortunately, you're going to have somebody, get shot or stabbed. We've had that happen. Park's still open. Homeless encampment still there. You're going to have yet another terrible event take place before anything really happens, because it seems like that's the only way to get some action on these crazy homeless encampments. I mean, and they are literally filled with people who are not mentally in their right mind, and they're filled with people that are addicted to drugs. And so you've just got this situation and this environment that's just wildly out of control. And because you can't sweep it, it just continues to get worse. People have more and more stuff. Well, the judges and, King County leadership, they're at this point where it's like, clear the whole thing and condemn it. Don't have a park there ever again, kind of thing. Make it part of one of the buildings, have it be an alternate use, maybe develop it. I don't know. But it's literally gotten to that point where you're looking at flat out closing the whole thing or condemning it. I don't know of too many situations where you've had to condemn a public park because of this kind of thing. I don't know of any. But I also haven't been covering this for years and years and years. Maybe there have been situations where parks have gotten that bad, and they have to take the drastic steps of, we're not just clearing it out so that normal people can come on in and use it. We are literally condemning it, going to make it a different use. So the conditions in City Hall Park threaten the community's access to justice. They inhibit safe travel to and from the courthouse and risk the judge's ability to fulfill their constitutional duties, says the letter, which expresses hope that arrangements can be made to provide alternate housing to the park's residents. We are going through a heat wave here in Seattle right now. Today, it's supposed to be, Western Washington is going through a heat wave. And I know some of you that are from warmer areas of the country are going to laugh, but it's supposed to be 111 today. And it is blistering hot outside. And here in Seattle, normally if it gets over like 70, it is literally, it's tanning time. We joke here that if it gets over 50, guys walk around without their shirts on, just pasty white, and they're just soaking up whatever vitamin D they can get. We don't have that going on today because it is so hot. I just walked outside here. It was like, right around noon, and it just you hit with that blast of heat. And so my point to this and my thought this morning was, oh man, how many homeless people are not going to make it through this heat wave? Because you always hear of that. You know what I mean? Just people that are in ill health, They can't take more stress to their systems. They can't, with the heat and with dehydration and direct exposure and, sunstroke and all that craziness. If you don't have a, roof over your head and you're sleeping in a tent, that is a tough, tough way to go. And there will be people that will die from this. And so my thought to there was, I'm going to read about this on this podcast. And you've got this whole, and if you're exposed to the elements, you've got this whole heat thing going on. It's just some tough times for people that are, unhoused and who don't have the same ability to seek shelter that the rest of us do. They can't go home. Their home's out in the sun. It's a very difficult time. Signed by presiding judge Jim Rogers, 11 judges who serve on the court security committee, the chief criminal judge, and several others. Copies of the letter were sent to Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin, King County Executive Dow Constantine, and every member of the Seattle City Council and Metropolitan King County Council, as well as interim Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz, the prosecutor's office, the public defender's office, and area business associations. We're at that point here in Seattle, and this is happening in other parts of the country, where people are so fed up and so frustrated with current leadership's ability to handle what they perceive as being these out of control homeless encampments that they are cranking off a letter to anybody in the system that has any input on this process whatsoever. I mean, that was literally just a smorgasbord of Seattle City leadership that they hit up with this letter. The mayor, King County executive, everybody on the council, metropolitan councils, King County Council, the police chief, prosecutor's office, defender's office, and a bunch of business leaders. I mean, where will this go? I don't know, but I think the pressure is being felt. Oh, and if we have one more incident over there in that park, that thing's done, right? I mean, they're working on trying to figure out how to let's create a solution here and let's do something beyond reimagining and rethinking. We got to do something before more people die. It's at that point, right? So a spokesperson for Seattle Parks and Recreation did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Friday afternoon. Shocking, right? They didn't get back in time for the publication of this article. Seattle City Council member Andrew Lewis, who represents the District 7, which includes Pioneer Square and City Hall Park, cautioned against immediately removing the park's residents for fear they will simply be displaced into the surrounding neighborhood. Okay, yeah, we get that. But you got to do something. This park specifically is really bad. It's gotten a really bad reputation, and the activities that happen at this park, not good, not solid. And so I think they're basically just trying to, get a move on with this park and get some kind of traction. So at least it's away from the courthouse. It's away from the courthouse. And obviously, we all know that is a short-term solution to a long-term problem, but so is the whole homelessness thing, right? I mean, it's a very difficult problem for city leadership to solve, and it costs a lot of money with everything COVID. There's federal money out there, and that is being looked at being spent, but that's being what's being spent on a lot of hotels right now. They're buying up to hotels, they're renting out hotels. Just trying to get people squared away in general. And it's a brutal task. You watch it down in California and, literally I've read, stories about people who need to be out. And so they move like 50 feet away and they just hunker down again, do their own thing because they don't want to go through rehab or they don't want to, get some mental health counseling for whatever issue they have. Just a tough time. In terms of encampments in my district, it's my highest priority, and for the many of the reasons cited by the judges, Lewis said Friday of City Hall Park. Many of the park's residents have high acuity needs in terms of undiagnosed mental health and addiction issues, so we'll need more intensive services, he said. And when you just roll up to this park, you can kind of take a look around and go, this is not where I should be hanging out and eating my lunch. This is a no-go for people of normal mental processing ability. A plan is in place using the county's new Just Care model, and the city and county on Monday jointly committed to spending $15 million to help move people from City Hall Park and Pioneer Square into hotel shelters and tiny home villages, according to Lewis. All right, so we're going to push to get some housing, get these folks into some housing. Man, I still don't have a lot of hope, because until we get some long-term solutions, like some permanent housing, we're just spending federal tax dollars on a short-term solution. And maybe at this point in time, that'll save some lives. We got to get these folks into something a little bit more permanent, because you just can't have them living in the park and then threatening everybody that goes by. But also, current leadership, they've been in a position to kind of keep this under control more. Haven't done so. Other cities have. Other cities haven't let things go to the point where we need to condemn a city park because cleaning it up is going to be so tricky, because we've just kind of let this bad boy go. And when you do that, here's what you end up with. You end up with a park that 33 judges are writing a letter on. That's when you know it's bad. When you got 33 judges going, hey, guys, we should, do you want to write a letter? Should we write a letter? I mean, that's not exactly how it goes down with judges, especially 33 of them, right? But some guy is like, hey, things have gotten so bad here, so bad, that I want to write a letter and just blast it out to everybody. Because that seems to be like maybe one of the only ways we're going to get recognized for what's going on and just how bad the situation has gotten. My hope is that we can turn it around quite quickly. This is Andrew Lewis talking. He's a Seattle City Council member. My hope is that we can turn it around quite quickly. It's just a matter of procurement and implementation, he said. Merchants in Pioneer Square are very worried that if something too precipitous happens, those tents will be in front of their businesses again. So everybody, we're playing the whack-a-mole game, right? You whack the homeless here, get them out of the area here that you want them into. They're going to pop up over here. And if they don't have a place to go, if they're not willing to get shelter, if they're not willing to get rehab or whatever it is that they're suffering from that dictates that the best place for them to be is in City Hall Park, it's difficult, isn't it? It's just, what do you say? Last week, all 33 people living in an encampment in the 1400 block of 3rd Avenue accepted referrals to shelter in hotels throughout the Just Care program, Lewis said. That could be a dress rehearsal for what we do in City Hall Park, he said. So, this isn't a shocking development that we're going to probably have this park swept and closed down, and maybe on a more permanent basis, because it's just gotten so bad. It's one of those areas that has gotten so bad. And when you have a murder out in front of your Superior Courthouse, people tend to perk their ears up when they hear assault on the sidewalk in front of their workplace, especially when the workplace is a Superior Court building. That's a hard no-go. And I thought they'd probably take care of this earlier, but it seems like we're just waiting for wave after wave of violence to hit. And then eventually we'll go, I remember those 2 kids that got killed and that other person that just got slightly wounded in the knee, took off his kneecap. Yeah, those were all events that led up to where we are right now. And now we got to do something. We've got to get rid of this influence. So that's exactly where we are. And here's the thing. What are we going to do about it? Are we just going to say, yeah, it's okay, go ahead and sweep it, and I'm sure we'll get those people some good housing? Because you basically need to open that courthouse up so people that can feel safe again, because life has to go on, even though the CDC says, yeah, we're not sweeping anything. At this point in time, life is moving on. Fewer and fewer people are worried about the coronavirus because they've been vaccinated, or they know people who have been vaccinated, or whatever, and they haven't caught it. And so here in the state of Washington, we're kind of opening it back up at the beginning of June. Most of our stuff will be opened up. But But then we've got to deal with this homeless encampment sweeping issue that is just a monkey on our back, because these homeless encampments are literally at that point where just bad things are happening. I mean, we're seeing fires, violence, shootings, stabbings, any mean stuff that one human being can do to another human being. We've got that going. And I think so many people are just feeling frustrated in general that they're taking it out on their fellow human being. And that's why you've got crime stats going through the roof. Who was it? AOC this morning was like, was it Cortez this morning, who was saying, don't believe the hysteria. Don't believe the hysteria that violence is going up and that gun violence is going up. It's like, you don't even really have to either believe or non-believe. It gets dumped in front of your face how many times a day by just our regular media that something else crazy came out of this homeless encampment. And this homeless encampment, we all knew it. And here we are. These judges, 33 of them, basically saying, hey, we need this squared away. City of Seattle leadership, you guys need to square this away. So once this finally does get squared away, I'll bring you an update on it, because we've talked about this park a bunch. And it's a damn half acre. It's not even that big. It's a city. It's an in-city park. I think we can do better. I think we can do better for the people living there. And I think we can do better for the people walking past this encampment, just trying to get to their court date, whatever it is. Maybe some dude's trying to finalize his divorce. I went down to the courthouse with my attorney for that, and that was very anticlimactic because I think a judge they hadn't signed it yet, and so we were going to the courthouse window to get some piece of paper that would have been recorded. I don't know. I remember it was April 14th, 2007. Not that it's a day that is indelibly inked in my mind, but it is. Because I was at the courthouse, and I think it actually closed April 17th is when my divorce closed. But one of those moments where when you fight for 18 months for trying to keep at least half your stuff, it's one of those memorable events where, we finally closed on our divorce. All right. Yeah. Welcome to the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Just kind of, all right, let's get a move on, because that was stressful, and it's time to move on and not have that stuff go on. But for all the attorneys and the judges and the clerks and all the people involved in the courthouse, they don't have an option of not going to the courthouse, because that's where all the stuff happens. And it's happening more and more and more since the whole coronavirus stuff is slowly being lifted. And as of this week here in King County, we're in the state of Washington, we're supposed to be back to normal. All restrictions lifted. It's like it never happened, isn't it? No. You're going to have those directional markers on the floors of the grocery store forever. Walk in this direction, because you don't want two people walking side by side. Might get the Rona. Crazy times, right? But as an update comes up, I will read it for you right here in the Seattle Real Estate Podcast on this kind of stuff. That's what we're doing. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go do another one on something really good. I can't remember, but it's a good one. Thanks for being part of the podcast. I'll catch up with you guys soon. Until then, stay safe. We'll talk soon. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.